I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take note, the copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the meeting room and is accessible to the members of the public. As far as roll call, all 8 council members are present. We'll move into number 2, the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council. It will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilman so requests. Item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on June 5th, 2023, as on file with the City Clerk's office. Item E, approval of Treasurer's report of claims in the amount of $1,086,084.80. Approval of Boswell report of claims in the amount of $60,891.46. Approval of write-off of ambulance bad debts. H, approval of pay request number 2 in the amount of $150,000 for the street roof to 3FI Incorporated for the June 2022 hailstorm as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Approval of pay request number 3 in the amount of $150,000 to water to 3FI Incorporated for the June 2022 hailstorm as recommended by the Board of Public Works. And approve of pay request number 4 in the amount of $1,790 public properties to 3FI Incorporated for the June 2022 hailstorm. Item K, resolution number 7081, reappointing Jason Suter to the City of Beatrice Library Advisory Board. Item L, resolution number 7082, executing any and all documents necessary to accept the U.S. Economic Development Administration's tourism grant program for the purpose of enhancing community events and developing a marketing campaign focused on qualified census tract attractions and businesses. Item M, resolution number 7083, designated streets or portions of streets as snow emergency routes and snow priority routes as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Are there any items any member would like to have removed from the agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. McLean.
I move the items listed under the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and ratified as presented.
Second.
Your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. No public hearings tonight, so we'll go right into resolutions. Resolution number 7084, dedicating Covey Circle and a portion of South 25th Street for public use.
I move the resolution number 7084 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Okay.
It's probably been a couple months ago now, we brought before you a resolution which we entered into an agreement with the Cover Bridge Heights Homeowner Association requesting, they asked to have the street taken over by the city. We had some different improvements that needed to make. They have since made all those. They had pavers. When pavers in town doing the city's mill and overlay project, come out and make the improvements to their streets that we requested. James Burrows has signed off and verified that they have made all the improvements that were required before. And so this one is a resolution before you tonight. It's just simply saying, yes, we'll dedicate those streets there as city streets. You see it goes from just south of Quail Ridge Circle down to the Cover Bridge. It does not include the Cover Bridge. The Cover Bridge is outside of city limits and includes a little Covey Circle there as well.
Discussion.
Were those streets asphalt or concrete?
Asphalt. Asphalt with curb gutter.
Curb gutter? How deep?
In that area,
6?
I think they're full length in that area, in some areas. They're different heights at different places, but.
No, how deep is the asphalt? Or how?
We had, the asphalt was core drilled in a couple locations, and I believe most of it was right around 6 inches thick.
Anyone from the public? Seeing none, your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. Resolution number 7085, executing a loan agreement, promissory note, deed of trust, personal guarantee, and any and all documents necessary to issue said loan between the city and Beatrice Bakery Company for an economic development loan totaling $240,022 for the funds derived from the LB 840 funds as recommended by the Citizens Advisory Review Committee.
Second.
I move that resolution number 7085 be passed and adopted.
Second.
All right. So again, what you have before you is the CARC committee met here last week. They made a recommendation to approve this loan application from Beatrice Bakery. Beatrice Bakery is looking to buy some new equipment down at their facility as they have some, hopefully some expansion plans in their near future. What they've asked for is $240,000. The $22 gets added on because we have to file with the Register of Deeds office a deed of trust, and so we tack that on to their loan amount there. Loan repayments 10 years. I believe it's a 5% interest rate on this particular loan, and collateral will include a deed of trust and a UCC filing.
What was the term?
10 years.
How many people do they employ, Toby?
I believe when we asked them it was 45. I might be off a couple, but I think that was the number they told us.
No, that's right. That's right.
Or-
Did they say that this is going to give us, and I'm sure it'll secure jobs that are there already, but any new jobs with this?
No new jobs with this particular piece of equipment. Again, they have some long-term plans that they're working on. This particular piece of equipment is a couple decades old.
I see.
And so
Yep.
they're just trying to cycle some of that stuff out and get
Yep.
some new equipment in.
Yep. Okay.
Gary?
I won't vote against this, but as you know, I expressed some concern. The stockholders in this company, I felt could really very much afford to do this without our help. When we talked about the stockholders, and I won't vote against it, but I think sometimes we ought to look at that a little bit if they, have a lot of money and they could do it themselves. Why are they coming to us? That's my only concern.
Anybody from the public? Seeing none, your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. Resolution number 7086, executing a contract for conveyance of real estate between the city and Team Renovate LLC, outlining the obligations of both parties under the Mow-to-Own program.
I move that resolution number 7086 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Okay.
Again, our Mow-to-Own program, we have a set price that we put on property. I believe it's $50 for based upon linear footage, and you multiply that out. This particular property is at 813 Ella Street. It's next to the two apartment buildings there. They're located at 8th and Ella. This property was originally a Mow-to-Own program with the Weedles. They then sold the two apartment complexes and then gave up the Mow-to-Own program on this lot. The new owner of those apartments is Team Renovate LLC. And so they asked then if they could start a new Mow-to-Own program on that lot at 813 Ella Street. And so that's what you have before you today.
Any discussion from the public? Gentlemen, your vote, please. That passes 8-0. Okay. That ends our resolutions. The first ordinance for the night is an ordinance authorizing the issue and sale and delivery of economic development bond series 2023 of the city of Beatrice in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $1,250,000 to pay for the cost of purchasing certain real property to expand the city's existing industrial park.
I move that said an ordinance be given number 23-19, the title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and the said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Suspension of the rules is not debatable. If no action is taken tonight, we'll read it by title once. So your vote, please. And that passes 8-0.
Can we have a question on that topic? Not on the,
Just a minute. We'll let you ask your question, okay?
yep.
Okay, now, ordinance number 2319 by number only the first time, 2319 the second time, and 2319 the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 23-19 be passed and approved.
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
This is like the first set of bonds that you guys we've issued since I've been here. So can you, for us newer people, can you kind of, I presume we have what used to be called a fiscal agent or something. What do we do with these? How do we raise this money? Where's it go? Are local firms involved with this? Just give me the background on this.
Sure. So we work with Jay Spearman, who's up at Piper Sandler now.
Yep.
That's where he's located at. They're the ones who take care of the financing and issue of these particular bonds. Depending on how big the service, the issuance is whether or not they'll do it in-house or commercial banks or go to local people around here. I can't tell you on this particular issuance how they are distributing them.
Right.
Relatively small in the bond world at $1.2 million.
Nothing.
So I would imagine they probably handle most of those in-house, would be my guess. These particular bonds, since they're paid for with LB 840 proceeds, can only go out to the length of that program. So that program was approved for 6 years. That's why our bonds go out for 6 years to match the length of that program. Each year, your bond payment will be roughly $240,000, give or take a couple bucks one way or the other. What other questions can I answer for you?
You know, I'm not really sure. I'm just curious about why we don't use local firms. When $1,250,000, we could have, when I was there, we could have got rid of those bonds in 2 days. And I would think that if we have local people purchase those bonds, they would kind of be inclined to be in favor of whatever the bonds are funding. So I'm just kind of curious about, plus we may be issuing more bonds in the future rather than just going to a fiscal agent and then they sell it to whoever they want to, or they dump it on some tax-free bond fund someplace in a lump and get a check. And I'm sure it's easier for us, send it up there, they send us a check and we just go about our business. But I'm just curious about if that's ever been discussed or not, and if so, why not?
We actually have discussed that. We went with a local firm here, and it's probably been 8-9 years ago. We went with a local firm to issue a set of bonds. It was significantly more work than the route that we go now. And so we just have
Not
always
when I was
continued.
there.
So that's why we have gone with the route that we have gone with our bond issuance.
I just would like you to check that, T. Okay, 8, 9, 10 years ago, things change a lot. And if we can do some of this financing locally, that would be nice, I think. I'm all in favor of keeping this money here if we can keep it here. Just kind of a for what it's worth thing. I'm not against what we're doing, it's just a question.
Any further discussion?
The only thing I would know is CARC did recommend issuance of these bonds.
Gentlemen, your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. Okay. Next ordinance is an ordinance establishing electric rates in the city of Beatrice.
I move that said ordinance be given number 23-20, the title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and the said ordinance be read by only number 3 times tonight.
Second.
Okay. Suspension of the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. Ordinance number 23-20 by number only the first time, 23-20 the second time, and 23-20 the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 23-20 be passed and approved.
Second.
So the new electric rate ordinance that you have before you does not change the electric rates for any customer in the city of Beatrice. What it does is it adds a clause in there for very large customers, i.e. those with Moonraker, to sign special contracts with them, which you did at the last council meeting. So, but the electric rates for any individual here inside the city limits does not change.
Any discussion?
Do we establish these every year?
We look at them every year when it comes budget time, and then only if we want to propose a change do we bring them back before you. So usually, the electric one hasn't changed very often. Lately, no.
From the public? Seeing none. Gentlemen, your vote, please. And that ordinance passes 8-0. Next is the public forum. The purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by the general public to the city council for consideration at a later date. No discussion or action will be taken by the city council this time. Anyone here for the public forum? All right, we'll move on to discussion reports. The first report is the director of the Beatrice Municipal Airport for an overview. Dennis, welcome. And thank you for coming.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis Schmitt. I'm the airport manager, and I'll kind of give you a brief overview of what goes on at the airport and what we have to offer out there tonight. For staff, we have 3 full-time employees. Myself as manager, operations and maintenance superintendent, which is Steve Bergmeyer, and a maintenance technician who is Mike Bergmeyer. These guys do an amazing job at keeping our equipment going.
You need to run that one too.
Need to click, yeah.
There you go.
I should have had Aaron do this.
You want me to do it?
No, I'm fine. I can do it. I told her I would, so we'll get this. Also have 3 part-time employees. Trevor Rue, who's also full-time at the Sheriff's Department here in Beatrice. Mike Struble is also a teacher at the middle school. And Don Dennison, who is a Navy veteran, and he's a retired pastor that lives here in Beatrice. At the airport, we have an advisory board, all appointed by the mayor. Joe Hawkins, Rick Claybaugh, Charles Hubka, Stan Meyer, and Phil Detbrenner. Members are appointed to 5-year terms, and the airport advisory meets quarterly. The services we offer out at the airport, for one, we're open 365 days a year from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Our part-time people usually come in and start about 4 in the afternoon and work until 7 o'clock in the evening, and then they cover the weekends and holidays. On the weekends, the 7 to 7 is divided into 2 shifts each day, 7 a.m. to 1 and then 1 to 7. One thing I did forget to kind of list on there, Chuck Hubka, who's on the advisory board, he also helps part-time. About the only time he works, though, is Thanksgiving and Christmas, but he does that to cover the whole day and let everybody have some time off, so that's greatly appreciated. As I said, we're open 7 to 7. After-hours support is available by calling. Helicopter comes in at night, medical emergency or anything like that. Quick phone call, we'll go out there and take care of that for them also. So it's kind of available 24 hours a day. We have 2 paved runways. They're concrete runways now. 18 and 36 is a 5,600-foot runway. It's 100 feet wide. And then our crosswind runway is 1432. It is 4,400 feet long and 75 feet wide. The fuel at the airport that we have is 100 low lead, which is available for piston type aircraft. And we have jet fuel, which has an additive also, Prist, which is kind of an icing inhibitor for that fuel. The fuel is available 7 to 7. It's full service for jet fuel and full service for the 100 low lead. The 100 low lead, we also have a self-service station for that, and that you can swipe a card and get fuel 24 hours a day.
How big of an aircraft can you land on your long runway?
Always get that question. It's not necessarily like a length or a size, it's a weight issue,
Yep.
and it depends on how many wheels they have and weight distribution. Chances are we can handle quite a bit out there. Kind of a one-time, it's the repetitive use of a heavy aircraft that would cause some problems. But if anybody's familiar, largest I've seen since we've been here is a Challenger 300. And I had a call today for like a Challenger 605, which is a fairly large aircraft. But a lot of what determines whether they come in or not is the services we provide. We don't have hangar for them, and most people with jets like that do want to be inside overnight and stuff. So
I would.
out at the airport, the navigation aids we have AWAS, which is an automated weather observing system. VOR, which is for navigation. It's a very high frequency omnidirectional radio range. Lighting, we have Malzar, which is a medium intensity approach light system with runway alignment indicator lights, and PAPI, which is precision approach path indicators. The FAA has flight service radio out there. It's a remote communications outlet. It enables pilots to receive instrument clearance and communicate with the flight service station from their aircraft on the ground before taking off. Obviously, we have hangars out there. Aircraft rental is available through a private individual. Flight instruction is private also, but that's available at the airport. On the airport, we maintain a complete line of equipment, remove snow blowers, tractors, loaders, mowers, and also a tug to move aircraft around. And we do maintain 2 crew cars out there. And what separates us from some other airports too is a lot of places you go will have a courtesy car, and usually not in the greatest condition, but they'll only let you take it for a couple hours, go get something to eat and that. Here, we'll let you take it overnight, let people go to a hotel, they want to go out to eat or do something like that while they're in the area, and it seems to work out well, and a lot of people appreciate that. Next, kind of back to fuel, the 100 low lead. As I mentioned, this is for piston type aircraft. We don't have any fuel trucks at the airport, so everything is done from a specific location. The 100 low lead is a fuel island that sits in the middle of our ramp. It has 2 12,000-gallon underground fuel storage tanks. It gives us about 21,600 gallons of usable storage. On the north side of the island is our self-service, where you can just swipe a credit card and get fuel 24 hours a day. And on the south side is our full-service station, where we have to pump the fuel ourselves, and we turn that off at night so nobody can access that. In addition to the 100 low lead, like I mentioned, we have the Jet A with additive, and that's at a fixed location also, behind the slide again. For the Jet A, we have one 12,000-gallon underground fuel tank. It has 10,800 gallons of usable storage, and the Jet A is available full service 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And again, like I said, quick phone call, and we'll go out there and take care of things after hours also. These are our fuel prices, and below the prices kind of list what other airports are doing within a 50-mile radius here of Beatrice. We're very competitive, try to keep it a little bit on the lower side too, but again, that's all dependent on what we're buying fuel at. Jet A is $5.80, full service for 100 low lead is $5.65, and self-service is $5.50. Fuel prices are still kind of high. Last year they got really high. It was up in the $7 range and stuff. They've come down a little bit, but they've kind of leveled off there. This is just kind of gee whiz information, what we've done in the past year. You can kind of see month by month what we've done for 100 low lead and Jet A, and then total for the year. There's really no trend analysis there. I mean, the winter months get a little bit slow sometimes, January, February, and March. Flying slows down after the holidays, and then usually weather kind of becomes an issue, whether planes can make it in or not. Airport facilities, we have an admin building. That's where my office is located. The big hangar is equipment storage, snow plows, snow blower, things like that. And then the snow removal equipment building is kind of where the maintenance guys perform their operations in there. In the summertime, we'll have the mowers in there and keeping them going. And in the wintertime, put the snow equipment in there to keep that warm and ready for any snows that we get. Airport hangars, excuse me. These are all of T hangars we have out there. We have the A hangar, which houses 6 aircraft. B hangar is 6. Charlie hangar is 8. D hangar is 10, and the E hangar is 6. The D hangar, which people refer to as the orange and whites, is probably about the oldest we have. Generally with a T hangar, you'll have walls on the inside to keep aircraft separate. That one's kind of open bay all the way through, so there's not necessarily privacy, but aircraft might not be as secure. Somebody that can get into their airplane can have access to the other ones too, so it's not a very desirable hangar, other than it does put a roof over the plane, and that's what most people are interested in having.
Are those full?
Yes, it is full. On the next slide, you'll see, I believe we have 37 aircraft based out at the airport. 36 of them are in the hangars, and we do have one on tie down. Might be getting out of order here a little bit. I do have a hangar request list that I maintain. I've kind of gone through it over the last few months, and people have come off for other reasons. You know, family member no longer lives in the area, so they don't need one. But currently sitting about 28 people wanting hangar or wanting to upgrade. Some of them are already in a hangar and just want to upgrade to something a little bit better than what they have. But I would say there's about 15 or 16 on there that don't have a hangar at all and would like to be hangared here at Beatrice. So.
How many of those are for non-aircraft use?
They all have to be aviation related. Now, I do have a couple hangars where the aircraft aren't necessarily good to fly yet, and people are working on them. That's something we kind of want to limit out there. I mean, give them ample time to get their plane going, get their medical done, or whatever it is they're kind of waiting on to fly. But, you know, we do want customers that are flying and buying fuel and this and that. I mean, it's not a storage unit, and they can go other places to get that. The slide here has our hangar prices, and they vary quite a bit. A lot of it depends on the size of the hangar and the condition of the hangar. Some of the cheaper hangars are a little bit smaller, and they may have a concrete pad on the inside where the aircraft sits, and then the sides are dirt. Wind comes up, blows dust around and things like that. Those are kind of less desirable. But again, like I mentioned, I mean, people want a roof over their hangar or over their aircraft here just because of hail and things like that. So,
How are our rates compared to other airports?
pretty consistent from the ones I've talked to. I've talked to York and Seward and some of those, and everybody else's is kind of low. I'm kind of surprised how low they are around here. Myself, I came from Olathe, and it was nothing to be $1,000 for a month for an aircraft. I mean, we charge what we down there would charge somebody for one night, and we're doing for a month up here. But again, it's the area and stuff. So,
Yeah, that's, when you look at what storage units costing you now.
well, I know. I mean, prior to me moving up here, I had a 10 by 20, and it was over $200 a month just for a storage unit. But that's one of the big questions we get is, how does the airport serve the community? I tried to list as much as I could. I mean, there's obviously more than this that the airport does provide to the community, but I've heard it called an off-ramp from the sky for Beatrice. I mean, anybody traveling by air, they wouldn't have access to Beatrice if we didn't have an airport. And it's access for business and pleasure. Obviously, people think an airport is a playground for people that are wealthy enough to own an airplane, a place for them to fly. And yes, we do, people that do own airplanes need a place to put it and a place to fly from, but it provides a lot more than that. There's local businesses that have other companies fly in to look at it. There's parts that get flown in all the time. Last week I had a part come in from Wyoming. It was supposed to go down to Kansas, but there was weather down there, so they had somebody drive up to Beatrice to get the part. And so there's just tons of little things like that. Charter service, bringing people into Beatrice to visit family, taking people from Beatrice to go to Chiefs games, things like that. Sometimes it's just a scheduled fuel stop. They're flying cross country for something, going to visit family. One of the big ones we have coming up here in July is EAA Air Venture in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And usually fuel sales pick up quite a bit because we're kind of a mid-route for people from the south and the west coming across, going to that to stop and get fuel. People flying for funerals, auctions, professional training, obviously flight training, medical transport. Sometimes it's organs that are being flown other places. Sometimes I've seen doctors and nurses taken and flown to other locations. Obviously, ag operations are important in this area, and we do support that with aerial spraying out there. Pipeline inspections is a big one. That happens every month. Every pipeline that runs through Nebraska and down into Kansas, they're out there flying them every month, and they stop in for fuel. Sometimes I get traffic from Kansas. We're the closest jet fuel to the Kansas border from anybody that's down in that area, so we'll get traffic up here for that. This past fall, when there was the oil spill just across the border into Kansas too, that was TC Energy. They flew a bunch of equipment and supplies in here to Beatrice to help support that. Again, we were the closest place with jet fuel to provide support for that. Power line inspections, wildlife surveys, emergency response. Thankfully we haven't had to deal with anything like that. But military training, a lot of you probably see the Blackhawks flying around. Most of that's the National Guard, come down on a weekly basis and do navigational training in the area. 5 or 6 times since I've been working out there, the Army will come up from Fort Riley. They'll call ahead of time and ask to make sure we can support them. But they'll come up, land, get some fuel, take a courtesy car, go down to Playa Azul, have some Mexican food, sit around and relax at the airport until it gets dark enough where they can do night vision and navigational training on their way back home. So, and we're always happy to have them. The last thing I put on there was tourism. I mean, it's not a huge draw, but back when we had the eclipse, we had quite a bit of traffic out there. I've seen pictures, the ramps just loaded with aircraft, and a lot of people came in flew in to view that. Private businesses operating at the airport. I mentioned we have certified flight instructors out there. John Cox owns a couple airplanes that he rents, and he also provides them for flight training. Matt flies for him. And then Bruce Burnett, he does some tail wheel training out there with his aircraft. We have a maintenance shop, Clover. Eric Zeck, which is a charter company, operates out of that hangar. Did I go? Yeah, make sure I didn't click. Hynum Brothers uses that hangar for their spraying operations. And then we have an avionics shop out there. And all these services we provide are very beneficial because a lot of smaller airports don't have, especially an avionics shop or have a maintenance on field. Some may have small maintenance, but we're very fortunate to have who we have out there.
So
Yeah,
the avionics shop where we really need more room.
we need more room. Yes,
Because I understand the gentleman is very talented,
yes,
and there's other airports would like to have him.
yeah. Yeah, there's a
And
few
so-
airports that have been recruiting him.
So I think that might be something we really want to consider to expand that, to keep talent here in Beatrice.
Yes.
Can we expand that, Bob, or would we have to put up an entirely new building?
We've kind of looked at, I mean,
We could, it'd be another building, but somehow tie it in so it's connected to the current one that's there. And that's all he really needs is a place where he could wheel tools in. He doesn't need a bigger building, he just kind of needs more space for aircraft. And I've talked to him a little bit about that, and one of the problems, or one of the needs I have too, is a spot for transient aircraft. We get aircraft in all the time, and due to weather, they want to get in a hangar overnight. He needs more room, but he would have enough room too where he would provide that transient spot too, to where we would have room to put somebody overnight
Have
if
you got
need
any
be.
kind of idea of what you need and maybe have went and got prices or would get prices?
Yeah, we've looked into that a little bit, and I've provided some information to Tobias, probably in the $2 million ballpark for about 100 by 100, I think is what I submitted, so.
Would there be grant availability for that?
The short answer is no. He does have the federal grants that come up about every couple of years for him. The current one you've got is for some taxiway improvements, but the next one will probably be several years out. We are looking at some other avenues to see if we can't get him a building a little sooner than that. But he does have about a 5-year plan put together of some different improvements that he'd like to see made out at the airport. And we're seeing how we can budget those in.
Guy on the line.
For a while, he's happy being here. I mean, he was recruited pretty hard to go to Crete and whatever, and he is happy here. It's a little closer to home, but I wouldn't want to go much beyond a couple years before he needs to grow too. So,
thank you.
yes. As I mentioned before, the spraying operators, 3 is about what we can handle out there, just to not congest the airport traffic too much, and also it's kind of dependent on water supply. These are 3 sites that have location to water. JM Flying, Emmerich, and Heinemann Brothers operate out of there. We do a 6-month lease with them for their season, but generally we only see them kind of for the month of July is when they're operating. So,
You got any idea why crop dusting planes are all yellow?
why? I'm assuming visibility, but I'm not 100% sure why. I could find out and get back to you.
I think
No,
it's,
I asked the guy in Hebron that has a crop dusting, of course he has helicopters and planes, fixed wings, and when I said, why are all crop dusting planes yellow? He said, because that's what color they come in.
And I've seen some white ones and
So
stuff.
I
but they're
guess
not
it goes back to the Model T,
It's-
and Ford, it says, we have it any color you want as long as you want black.
Yeah.
So-
I think it's the brand. The air tractors are all yellow and blue. The Thrush are white and red. That's kind of the brand.
But yeah, visibility
I just
probably has a
wondered if
big
you,
part of that.
I just wondered if you knew.
No, I'm guessing that it's. Another source of revenue out there is our farm ground and hay lease. What you can see on that, it's not a very detailed map, but all the parts in yellow is for crops. Most of it is soybean, and that's due to height restrictions. The crops can only be so high at certain ranges from the runway and taxiways. There's a small portion up to the north end of the runway that we can do a little bit of corn up there, but we did bid these out this past fall, and they're 3-year lease, I believe is what we did. And in addition to the crops, like I said, the hay lease is all the places right up next to the runways and taxiways, kind of with the exception of about 18 feet that we mow. Anything right up to the runway and taxiway and out to where the lights are, we do that ourselves, but then the rest of it can be baled for hay. And that's bringing in $114,000 annually, so. Monthly lease, we have Exmark. You get about a little over $27,000 for that. They use that area for testing their mowers, and then we also, the property that the parking lot sits on. Grain bin site, some of you are probably familiar with. It's where Johnny Sadoff has his buildings there. We lease some ground there, and the Quonsets around there. One of the Quonsets we use ourselves at the airport for storing some equipment, but all of that in that area brings in about a little over $26,000 also. An annual lease with World Lawn, right out next to the airport there. That's a little over $26,000 a year. Then we have Tractor Supply, which leases that lot out there, a little over $13,000 per year. And then Capri Inn and Suites at the north end of that is $14,000 per year. And then this one, we have 3 lots that are still available. It's kind of a prime location right across the street from Walmart that we would like to get leased. We've had some interest from, say, portable buildings and things like that, but that's not necessarily the
Choice.
who we want out there. We'd like something a little more permanent, but yeah, that's something we kind of need to advertise and market a little bit. And then for future projects here, as we talked about, hoping to kind of get this started this year. It's reconstruct the taxiway Charlie and apron project. Been in the planning for about 4 or 5 years. What it is the FAA has a regulation where you can't have direct access from an aircraft ramp to a runway. And as you do from our ramp to our runway, the plan would be to take taxiway Charlie there, remove it completely, and move it down to the north and reconstruct a taxiway there. So that anybody from a ramp would have to make a left or a right. They'd have to do some sort of turning maneuver to gain access to the runway. And that's just kind of a safety thing. And when that part of it is done, the apron and the ramp area there, which is asphalt, where the fuel island and that stuff is, would all get torn out. And they'd do it in phases, so we wouldn't have to close anything down. There would always be access to fuel and stuff, but that would then be concrete. The fuel island, the 100 low lead that sits in the middle, that would be removed. I'm not 100% sure if they're going to take the tanks out or fill it in or however they do that, but we'd get an above ground storage tank put off kind of to the south of the apron there. And it would have full service and self-service also. And the jet fuel would stay where it's at, and we'd continue to use that, yes.
How old are the storage tanks out there? You got any idea?
Nobody knows for sure, but best guess is we're thinking around the 50s or 60s. So maybe not original type thing, but they've been there quite a while. So they're still in good condition. We sump them all the time, and haven't had any fuel quality issues and things like that. It is nice that we'll upgrade to above ground storage tank. I mean, it's a lot easier to monitor leaks and just things like that. And eventually here in the next however many years, I mean, we got other projects, the hangars, things like that I'd like to do, but I'd like to catch the jet fuel up to the 100 low lead and get above ground tanks and do that also. And then, as we mentioned with hangars, what we need kind of for avionics, kind of a box hangar type thing, but this has been drawn up in the works for a few years, and it's probably about 4 or 5 years down the road as far as FAA grants and things like that are concerned to do it. But it's a 6-place T hangar, which would be just to the southeast of where our current B hangar is. We wouldn't take any other hangars down if we didn't have to right now, but we could add another 6-place hangar. Like to do more hangars than that, but this one with the engineers and the FAA involvement and things, it's about $2 million for a little 6-place T hangar. So anything bigger than this, you get into fire suppression and the costs skyrocket. So with that, that's about all I have tonight. I know that's kind of a short and sweet of it, but if anybody has any questions, anytime you're welcome to come out to the airport. I'd be glad to give you a tour, answer any questions, show you around. And
So Dennis, I know you're like new here, like I am, sir. Can somebody answer why we haven't tackled some of this stuff over the past few years? I mean, do airports issue revenue bonds?
Usually not, no.
Because there's a lot of cash here. Where's this cash
Now.
goes? Is it just going to our general fund now?
So up until this year,
No, I mean now.
now they have their own separate account as of right now. At the end of this fiscal year, we'll merge that money into our general fund.
So the plan is we're just going to, once this redesignation gets done here, whatever, and the federal FAA accepts it, then we're just going to wait for grants to be able to do this?
No, we'll continue to look at, see if we can issue some bonds or some other things. And now that he would be part of the city could issue some GO bonds on behalf of the airport. There's some other opportunities there, yes.
Very good, thanks. You heard that right, Dennis?
yes.
I
Okay.
got a question for you, Tove. I know you wouldn't be able to.
We couldn't do it before.
Since we took over, out there.
It wasn't
and
us.
That's no longer under their board, it's under us.
They could have.
The members that were
They had
appointed,
bonds there before.
he said they serve a 5-year term. Did we stagger those?
Yes.
So you did stagger them? so
Yes.
you wouldn't have a all of a sudden term?
Right, no, they're 5, each one got a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. So each year, somebody will roll off and get reappointed into a 5-year term, and just like we did with the library board.
I think the order I had on there was the correct order. Joe Hawkins is the 5-year, Rick is 4, and I don't remember the order from there, but each down, so every year.
Other questions? Thank you. And thank you for putting together a plan. I think
Appreciate it.
that will help the airport and help the city. So thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. The next discussion item, I believe, is the city administrator's monthly report.
Yeah, you have the monthly report there for your review. A couple of things to note in there. The Gage County Trail Depot, which is the down there by Dempster's. We did go out for bids on adding the sponge park. The bid, we got one bid back, and it was substantially higher than all estimates. And so we are working with some local contractors to see if we can't find other ways to get that project done and completed. So it's not done, it's not dead, but we are trying to find some other ways to get that thing done. The Pioneer Trail Extension, again, that's along Highway 136 between 24th and 26th. That contractor looks to get started here very soon. So you'll see some work out in that particular area there. And then 33rd and Lincoln Street, to just kind of keep you all updated on what's going on with that particular project. The big thing right now is survey work. So if you go out there, you may see a bunch of guys walking around taking shots and points of different parts and places, trying to find utilities, all that good stuff. That's kind of where they're at right now in that particular process. So any other questions anybody might have?
Yeah, we got a deal from you on the phones the other day about these duck floats.
Yep.
I understand we can't do it in the river, but what were you trying to say there that you're gonna?
So the Chamber of Commerce, as part of the Homestead Days, is having brought back their duck races. For those who have been part of the community before, right, they'd put them on the bridge, the West Court Street Bridge, and they would float down to Chaco Park, and then they would bring them back out of the water. Obviously, if you have looked at the river lately, there's not enough water in it to float a duck very far. And so they're looking for some other options and locations. First, we looked at the pool, but the pool was not going to work either. At least it doesn't sound like it's going to. So some options that they're exploring are, we have some drainage ditches in town that are lined, concreted. So can we use one of those, maybe open up a fire hydrant, put some water into it, dump the ducks, let them race down, and then turn everything back off? Or is there a street someplace that we can block off, put some water on the street, race the ducks down, and open up and let everything go into the storm sewer? So they're exploring some options for that event this
No,
week.
I got rather confused. You're gonna float a duck down the street.
I believe you still have time to go purchase your duck if you'd like to. So
they're all
all sold out? All right, well, I misspoke there, so.
One with legs wins.
I know the guy that bought the last two.
Go ahead, Gary.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I got a question. Is it a city ordinance, I assume it is, to have enough councilmen to pass ordinances? Can we change that to 5? Because there's been more than a couple of times, there's only been 5 of us.
Nope.
That's state law?
State law.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't know the answer either.
The company that has put, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
The company that's putting fiber optic in that started out of the country club area, is that work being subbed?
Yeah, so the company that's been the work is putting it in is Pinpoint. They've subbed out to TH, who's doing some of it, and then I'm sure they've subbed some of that out yet to another vendor coming in.
Okay, just wanted you to know that there's some pretty frustrated citizens that got their yard torn up, and then those people just walked away and said, oh yeah, we'll see you in 10 days.
So if they let us know, we can put them in contact with the right vendors and make sure that things get righted for them.
Okay.
Welcome to the council, Dave.
My connection with them was just 100% the other way, 180 degrees the other way. They came out and met with a whole group in that whole country club area and answered all the questions. They did a really good job, I thought. So probably depends, you know.
Sure.
Can I go ahead? Okay, so I hate to ask all these money friggin' questions, and I apologize, T, because I didn't have time to do it before we met today. But, so the council gave you guys authority to take chunks of money and put it into this state investment plan, if I can call it that. Okay?
Yep.
Right. Mainly because we're getting a tenth and now we're getting 4.5 or whatever.
Right.
So when I met with Hannah, which was very helpful, she answered all my questions very well. We have like $1 million in there right now, and a substantial amount of money that's not in there. And all that is a government securities fund. That's all that is. I mean, there's no options, commodities, futures, indexes, none of the rest of that crap. And it's pure vanilla fund that you can buy anywhere. All right? So what I'm wondering is why we aren't doing that locally also. When all it is opening up an account, there's no time periods, there's no costs, and we can just get money out and the rates are the same. That's number one.
Yep.
Just a thought, okay? Secondly, and I apologize again for this, I just can't remember, but are we getting pretty close to self-funding the total insurance? Because we just cranked another $205,000 in there. I was thinking we were getting close to being where we wanted to be for having the total amount of money set aside.
So for our EBA account, our health insurance account, we continue to fund that every month. What we have done is not raise the rate on it for the last couple of years, and we do not have a budget rate increase for next year either.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask the question right. Okay, so we have a pool of funds that we want to have in case we have an emergency, right? I know we're reinsured for disasters, but we have a pool of funds. That figure there, once we hit that figure, just trying to speak logically, it would seem to me that $205,000 now, $800,000 a year or something could go into other things once we hit this figure.
But it doesn't stay at that figure because people continue to go see the doctor and have other claims come in, so that number dips, and that's why we continue to fund it. But we don't keep pouring more money into it. What we do is we have, again, a rate that we put in there each month per
Right.
employee, and we've not raised that rate for several years because we're getting close to that number,
Okay.
that key max that we want to have, somewhere in that ballpark. And so we've left that number alone for next year as well.
And if we don't put this money in there, then that's money that's in the general fund for something else.
Not everything. Some of the money would go back to the electric department, some would go to water, WPC,
Well,
all based
I
upon
mean,
the different
I should have
departments.
said the city. City is each allocated to their individual departments, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not self-funding an overly substantial amount.
No.
I just want to make sure we're not there, okay? Because that's a big number. If you look through all your bills that you present to us, that's a big number every time it comes through. Also noticed, and I don't know, I'm sure all of you get the phone calls just like I get about weeds and dogs, okay? And I noticed that in here, we've already had 322 code enforcements this year that Chet's groups had to deal with. Last year, we had 402 for the whole year. So I'm sure a lot of them come right now, but that's a pretty substantial increase, and I gave you 3 today. So people need to understand that we're tackling that problem as fast as we can possibly tackle it, but it's a big problem.
Well, you could shorten down the time period on the weeds, and then you wouldn't have so many calls. Ordinance.
Well, you can say that about a lot of things, but
Hold over, I think there'll be some changes coming in that quite shortly.
thank you for doing the report. It's very informative.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, next council meeting will be July 3rd.
Did you raise your hand? Oh, I thought you raised your hand, Jason, sorry.
July 3rd at 7 p.m. There will not be a work session prior. And with that, Mr. McLean.
I move the meeting be adjourned at 7:49 PM.
Second.
All those in favor? And that passes 8-0. Thank you, gentlemen.